Choose Viatude fungicide and unleash best-in-class sclerotinia protection in canola and premium protection against white mold in soybeans. Viatude contains a powerful premix of Onmira Active and prothioconazole. This unique combo delivers high-performance disease control, crop safety, mix compatibility, resistance management, and advanced mobility for excellent coverage and superior plant protection. Choose Viatude fungicide for stronger, more vigorous crops.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 at Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. And of course, it is the Farmer Rapid Fire, which is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Let's talk about Viatude, the new fungicide for canola and soybeans. Get best-in-class protection from two of the strongest sclerotinia and white mold actives on the market. Make sure you go to pioneer.com/Canada to find out more. Today on the Farmer Rapid Fire, we're going to be joined by some veterans of the show. We got Steve Terpstra coming out of Ontario. Aaron Stevanus is from Ontario. Tim Oleksyn is in Saskatchewan. Richard Carr is in Manitoba. And Pioneer agronomist Doug Moisey out of Alberta. If you have any feedback, send us an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. And we start off this week's Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada in Atwood, Ontario. We're talking to Steve Terpstra. Steve, how are we doing?
Oh, not too bad. Shaun, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Hey, how's planting going?
It's been a frustrating spring. If it wasn't for Mother Nature not cooperating, the equipment didn't either. So.
Oh, really? What? Yeah, I understand the weather, but what's going on with the equipment?
I switched out planters this year, and there's always gremlins in the new stuff, and so I went from a 24 row last year, a horse planter, and I actually downgraded to a 12 row. I don't have as many acres anymore, so I just thought I would switch planters out, and this one we had her all set up in the field, and then all of a sudden it wouldn't talk to the tractor through the isobus. So just one thing after another, and couple days of trying to figure it out with the mechanic, and they ended up putting like an older screen in the tractor to have the units talk to each other. So it was very, very frustrating. Then when I finally got going at my air drill, it was similar issues, all electrical wiring harness and stuff. Just frustrating.
Yeah, it's those are hard things to fix as the farmer, right? Like it's it's not pulling wrenches.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And it's the planner. It was just getting it set up was a little later than I would have liked it, and then with that issue, it just made it a lot later.
How much you got left?
Corn I got in. I have to actually. I work with a guy up in Markdale area, and I got to go up and plant his corn. Well, as soon as it dries up, my own's done. And then soybeans, 40 acres. Like it was close. Like on Sunday, I easily would have been able to get it done. They thought they had the problem fixed, that it would be able to plant the rest of the soybeans, but then it failed again. So now waiting for a new wiring harness and then see what happens. So,
have you been getting like big rain events?
We just got a big I think we're sitting at about 2 inches over the last few days. We've been getting a lot of rain events, just not a lot of rain.
Okay.
So it'd be coming down 3-4 mil, enough to make you not be able to plant. And then it dries up and you're able to go again, and then it seems that night it rains again. So
overall conditions are pretty good?
overall stuff, like the stuff that's in the ground, the corn's up like 2-3 leaves. Yeah, my sunflowers are emerging nicely. Soybeans are not up yet, but I'm sure the next couple of days they'll be. We've been having cool nighttime temperatures too, so it hasn't been real hot.
Well, I can attest to that. It feels the same way out here, but like, Eastern Ontario really getting heat like last week. Did you kind of miss some of that heat last week then?
We had a real nice, like the daytime temperatures were really nice. So when, on the weekend, everybody sits by the pool. It's real nice, but when it's night times, it still gets kind of cool. And I was talking to a guy this morning. They got some white beans yet to go, but they don't really want to put them in yet with the cooler nighttime temperatures. So
how's
you don't want to put them in too much with the heavy rains coming anyway. So.
Yeah. How's the wheat? How's the wheat looking?
Wheat looks phenomenal.
Oh,
it's it come out of the winter. Well, we didn't have much of a winter, but it come out looking really good. So it's just starting to head out now, which I got to get it sprayed before girlfriend and I are actually heading out on a trip next week. So hopefully get everything done before then, but we'll see.
What trip? What are you doing? Where are you going?
Well, she's taking her daughter to Greece, and they asked if I wanted to come with them. So
Steve Terpstra in Greece.
Get done. Get done, and then head out there. So we'll see.
Look out, Greece.
Yeah, a little bit of spraying to do, so we'll figure that out.
So how is spraying? What are you doing spraying wise?
Well, I'll have to do a fungicide on the wheat with all this moisture. And I didn't get my early application of fungicide on. I had the floaters on the sprayer, and I had to get the corn ground covered first. And with the on and off weather, it was just late, and I missed the timing. Now this fungicide is pretty important. So
on Monday's show, Peter Johnson and I were talking about in any growing season, especially when the spraying season where the year kind of converges on itself, like we don't have the separation between planting, spraying, harvest. It all just kind of seems like it melts together.
Blends together,
yeah. It's you have to really think about what's the priority. Like, where is that sprayer going this morning? And there's logistics to it, like thinking about, do I have to do clean out, or what the timing is, or where the biggest money making crop, and turning our attention there. Like, there's a lot of considerations that go into that prioritization of where that sprayer's headed.
Yeah, a couple weeks or 2 weeks ago, whenever I had that window and the planter was actually working, so I got the corn ground sprayed, got her planted, and then I had to switch right over to sunflowers, so I did that. Planting the sunflowers that night, I woke the girlfriend up, and actually we planted we do that sunflower trail.
Yep.
Through the field, so we planted that at 2:30 in the morning. She actually wanted to get up at that time, so I woke her up when I was ready to plant it, and we went out and planted it. But then I just got the sprayer tires switched over, but pulled the all-nighter, and was like, I'm not going to go out and spray, so I actually hired it done to get 28% on the last application of UAN on the wheat. So it's just trying to get it done, and you end up not being able to do it yourself, so you get somebody else to do it for you. So just one of those years.
Oh well, we could say that every year, right? It's just like every year is not like the other. It keeps us on our toes. Quickly to finish up here, how you feeling confidence wise when it comes to crop marketing?
I'm not. I cut corn acres down this year. Soybeans, I've got a bunch marketed pretty decent, I think. Wheat's not too bad. I'm not sitting too bad, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I'd like higher prices, but just you do what you can.
Hey,
we can't control the highs and the lows.
Oh, we cannot. Hey, I got a question of the week for you. You ready? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Okay.
Great.
Last week, there was a story in the Wall Street Journal that was talking about kind of business reflection, where you're like, what was I thinking? Right, like in hindsight.
Yep.
And I shared my personal one. Do you have one that comes to mind for you in your farming career? Like when you look back?
I do.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
One of our last conversations, you and I decided to go buy some land out east. It's a little bit better opportunity out there. Like the prices are a little bit better. It's just very hard to manage with that so much distance in between. And it wasn't one of my best decisions to make, put it that way.
You're still doing it?
Farm I still have some land out there. I sold one chunk, but yeah, I have some land out there. It's just very hard, and it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. So that is one decision I wish I didn't. Wish I made the other one, but yeah.
Live and learn.
Yeah, yeah. It's that's what life is.
Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate it, Steve. Hey, Steve, thanks so much. Get all that work done. You got a trip to go on, so
yeah, I'm trying.
Okay. I'll get off the phone with you. Hey, Steve, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Shaun.
That is Steve Terpstra at Atwood, Ontario. We got more coming up here on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Right after this.
Choose Viatude fungicide and unleash best-in-class sclerotinia protection in canola and premium protection against white mold in soybeans. Viatude contains a powerful premix of Onmira Active and Prothioconazole. This unique combo delivers high-performance disease control, crop safety, mix compatibility, resistance management, and advanced mobility for excellent coverage and superior plant protection. Choose Viatude fungicide for stronger, more vigorous crops.
I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney at RealAgriculture.com and you can book myself or any other Real Ag personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture.
Peter Johnson at Wheat Pete, RealAgriculture.com, and what an opportunity! Oh my gosh! You think you can't grow better wheat? You are absolutely wrong. We're going to show you how to strive for those record wheat yields that they get in the UK and in New Zealand. You can grow 150 bushel wheat. I'll show you how.
Catch Wheat Pete's Word every Wednesday on RealAgriculture.com or download the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. And we continue the Farmer Rapid Fire here on RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And we're going to drop into Bloomingdale, Ontario. Sounds like a very beautiful place. And we're talking to Aaron Stevanus. Aaron, how are you doing?
Oh, can't complain, Shaun. It's a beautiful day here. The sun's actually out, and hopefully drying up some rain that we got over the past couple of days. We got like an inch of rain, so hopefully we can get back at the fields and get some work done.
Nice. You done planting?
Yeah, pretty much. We're diverse here. We've got row crops and vegetables on our small little farm. So we're done the row crops and a little bit of vegetables yet to go. But I'll plant sweet corn well into June just so we have it into September. So we're moving along great. The customers that I serve on the seed side, probably almost in the general area, say 99, because there's always got to be someone that's not quite done on corn, and probably 95% on beans, and then some of the guys that have land north of us is probably 80% on corn and 75 to 80% beans.
How are conditions?
Moist. It's been a year of attrition, that's for sure. It seems to be we get rain and then it dries out and you get a couple days to go hard and then it rains again. So right now there's lots of soil moist. We're probably well at field capacity. There's still just finally losing some ponds that were in the field from the last inch of rain that we got. But it is starting to move downward, which is a good thing. And crops are up that got planted earlier and are looking pretty decent considering, some of the conditions they went into. But, corn's interesting that way where you don't really know until you get to like eight leaf, like say knee-high corn. That's when you really see if there's any sins of the spring.
Ooh, the old identification of the sins of the spring. If you were to guess what the identification of the sins of the spring would be, like what would What are you worried about is going to show itself?
Yeah, good question. So my biggest worry is that sidewall on corn, where we're pushing ground maybe a little bit. I mean, in general, our land in my general area of essentially North Waterloo region is fairly forgiving. But if it is have a little bit of clay content in it, if you go in a little too wet, those double disc openers smear the side. And then as you start to stop relying on the seed for nutrition on the corn plant and start needing the roots, if you get any hatchet roots, so them not being able to break out of that sidewall, that's my biggest worry. So then that'll be stunted plants essentially, because that root is not on a 45. It's essentially just a one smeared in line of what's in that seed trench. Then we start having nutrient deficiencies in stunted corn, and that'll be the first thing to show up in my opinion.
I hope that doesn't happen.
I do too. If we keep getting rain, it'll be fine. If it was touch and go like that, there was a smear, it keeps the soil essentially loose and not hardening off around that seed. So as long as we keep moisture up into that knee-high corn, we're going to be fine.
All your ground tiled?
Most of it, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would it be like if it wasn't tiled? Unfarmable?
No, it would be farmable. I'd just be probably planting in June.
Yeah. And for sweet corn, that's okay, but other stuff, not so much.
No, not so much. You know, when heat is our limiting factor in maturing grain corn, we need every bit of the season we can get. Not saying that we're in low heat units, but there has been times where we've gotten an early frost in this area, and you have grade 5 corn. You never want that. It's a very rare thing. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it'll happen, but it's always on the back of the mind. And
you've got some overnight lows this week in that 5 Celsius range. Is that any bit of a concern?
So it really, it depends. It's like everything. If it stays clear sky, no wind, and you get maybe some of those hollows, sure, we might get a touch of frost, but hey, it's not farming in Southern Ontario if you're not like worried about frost at some point in time. It's just the way our seasons are, right? So I'm not too worried about it. I look at it as it's a challenge that we need to cross if it comes, because there's nothing we can do about it. We just make new plans and drive on and assess whatever Mother Nature throws at us.
Yeah. Any new pieces of gear that you used this spring at all?
Good question. New pieces of gear. Well, it's not this year, but it'd be my second season. Is I did use some Dawn Curvy Tine closing wheels on my corn planter, and I must say I do, because we're back and forth between no-till and conventional here on both planting corn and soybeans and sweet corn. And it is a closing wheel. At first, I wasn't sure. Previously, I had a spiked Martin closing wheel on one side, and a rubber and a chain, a rubber closing wheel, and then a chain behind that. And I will say, this closing wheel definitely does a good job on both no-till and conventional. And it just, especially on these adverse conditions we had at planting, where it was maybe, I will say, I probably pushed some of my ground a little bit more than normal because of just when rains were coming, and it did a good job of crumbling the seed trench, closing it, and looking back at it as corn's emerging. I kept it really loose. So that sidewall compaction that I mentioned, it's enough of an aggressive kind of knuckle, so it kind of chips and firms, that it chipped away enough that it still is a nice crumbling sidewall, and no compaction. But also closed the trench and didn't nick. Sometimes you can get too aggressive and it'll actually fling the seed out of the trench, which didn't do any of that. It kept good seed depth, and I'm really happy with what it did this year.
And so when you say pushing the ground more than I should have, are you referring to I'm out there running an implement? I've got the planter out there before I should, or what are you talking about?
Yep, definitely. So in our no-till ground, the conventional ground was all ready. The no-till ground was probably needed another day. But with what the rain forecast was, I probably pushed it that extra day, and not giving it the extra day. And it ended up being the fact that we're getting rains and the way that those dawn curvy tines close the trench. So far, I'm very optimistic on getting away with what I did. Now every year's different. I could do the same thing next year and it bakes out and dries, and I might not say the same thing. But so far this year, it's looking like my risk that I took paid off right now.
Well, everything's a calculated risk, indeed. Hey, I got a question of the week this week, and it has to do with business decisions. Do you have a business decision on your farm that you've made where you kind of scratch your head and you sort of say, in hindsight, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And, do you got one that comes to mind?
Oh, man, that's a good question. What was I thinking? I guess you want to know what? It's kind of I'll give it the best one I can think of is just my battle back and forth was being conventional and no-till. And want to know what? I think it's the challenge of every year is different. So you almost have to have a strategy and just roll with it. Obviously be adaptive, of course, but like there's times where I should just be in tillage. What am I doing? Why am I no-tilling? And then the next year it pans out and it's fine on corn specifically. And then there's other times where you go in there with the tillage piece and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending this time? Myself, having to do other things besides farming, either before off-farm job or now having a Pioneer dealership. It's like I should be delivering seed or I should be doing this. I don't have time to till the field. So I would say that's my biggest struggle back and forth. Right now I'm leaning more towards no-till again with tillage as my backup plan. How about that?
Nice. Well, hey, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Farmer Rapid Fire. Really appreciate it, bud.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate it, Shaun. And hope for a great growing season for everyone and keep those timely rains coming and the sun shining. And we'll be happy that we pushed through all this season that we had here in Ontario.
Yeah, well put. We'll be right back with more here on RealAg Radio, the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola. If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today. It's summertime, and you've got a lot of important decisions to make when it comes to your corn crop. Let the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com help guide you through those big decisions with input from leading experts in the field. If it's spray timing, disease identification, or any other field issue, the Corn School's got you covered. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
We take the Farmer Rapid Fire to Marchand, Manitoba. I was going to say Alberta. Manitoba. And we're talking to Richard Carr. Hey, Richard, how are you doing?
Not too bad for yourself.
Pretty good. Okay. Hey, how are growing conditions right there?
A little slow. It's been a little wet here in southern Manitoba, and it's been a little cool. So just waiting on some sunshine and some not rainy days.
Yeah, I saw a moisture map for Manitoba, and it's looking quite a bit above average. You've had a lot of rain out in that province. Has the heat come yet?
We've had a hard warm day here and there, but not enough consecutive days. Ground temperatures are still pretty cold. So the grass is coming up now, but other than that, the crops are pretty full coming here.
Do you have all the crop in?
No, we're about 50% done.
Okay, so what's in and what's left?
We got all our corn in, just so we can put some cereals in. So, the cereals, I got a little bit of grace here, but the corn, that was one I need to get in here, so I did it last week. But now it's just sitting in some pretty cold ground. Hasn't come up yet, so fingers crossed that we get some heat and it turns around.
Are you feeling anxious about the calendar, or you're just happy for the moisture? Like, how are you looking at things right now?
It's a mixed bag, right? Because, I mean, if we would have had this conversation a month and a half ago, we would have been asking for some moisture, and now we got it and then some. So, yeah, we've definitely put in our crops later than this. I mean, you're always anxious. I mean, our next big challenge will be taking off first cuts and seeing how wet the hay fields are. But things can change so fast these days. I mean, you give it a week of good warm weather with no rain, and it'll look a lot different than it does today. Yeah,
was it 22 in Manitoba where we had a really wet spring and then we had a very open fall and we had pretty good yields? Was that 22?
Yeah, 22 was a really wet spring for us, like really wet. And that year we got our corn in. Our powdered corn went in the third week of June, so that was really late. So we're sitting better than that, but like that year turned around, right? It was such a wet spring and crops went in late, and then a nice long extended growing season, and things ended up being not too bad in the whole. Yeah, late seeding, planting, and early frost, that's a death knell. But if we do get that, the later we put seed in the ground, the more we're cheering for that wide open, beautiful, beautiful fall. And if we get it, we're fine. Like there's no reason to panic here at this point. I think that's at least how I look at it. Yeah, same here too. I think we're still early to get into a real panic mode. I think lots of plan Bs are forming up here. Some guys will probably switch away from things like corn and beans and maybe go to more of a cereal crop or some canola. But plan A was a good plan, but we always adapt and we'll go on to plan B and plan C and plan D if necessary, right? That's how it always is. How are you feeling right now about looking at the markets and trying to manage that side of the business? You know what? Like with us being dairy and beef, I think that side of the business has a pretty good outlook to it. If I was on the grain side, I would probably sing a little bit different tune. But for us, like the cattle markets have been really strong this last 18 months, and I think it's going to continue to be like that. So on that side, I think I'm pretty happy. How about the dairy? How has that been? Like we were hearing a lot about, through when its commodity prices went higher, there was a lot of concern about some of the cost of production, things like that. We're seeing over in Europe a lot of contentiousness and some protests related to the price that farmers are getting for milk. How are things right now on the dairy? The optimism has definitely changed here in the last 6 months. The Western Milk Pool is working hard on some stuff out your way, some new plants coming online here in the next 18 to 24 months, and that's gonna be a real good thing for all of us. And the cost of production isn't where we want it to be, but it's turned around a little bit. The margins are getting a little bit more favorable, and I think there's definitely a glimmer of hope in the future of dairy. It was looking a little bleak there for a while, but I think that's turning around now, and I'm excited for the next couple of years anyways. How much you've been following this HPAI in the U.S.? Have you made any biosecurity changes or done anything on your farm? No, not really yet, other than get another 12 gauge and pop off every pigeon I can. Not really, not a lot yet. I mean, it's just a lot of monitoring right now. I mean, we haven't had a positive confirmed case in Canada yet. I think BSC and CFA are both tabs on it, but I think it's probably inevitable that it will make its way here. And when it does, there will probably be a few more changes have to be made then. But as of right now, we're just kind of seeing what's happening down south, and it's more just business as usual for now. Yeah, it's definitely something that we've been following really, really closely. And I would say that most of the dairy producers that I've talked to use that word yet, right? They're I think just being realistic, right? And it's the passing from birds. Like, it's hard to control the bird flow, which is exactly. Exactly. So I think the main migration is kind of over, so maybe that pressure is off. But it's with something like that, that's exactly. It's really hard to control. So just sit back and kind of wait and see what rolls out here.
Yeah. So for the corn you're growing and the cereals, is all that going into forage?
All the corn is going in for silage for the cattle, and then the cereals will head off. That'll be combine. That'll be commodity for the farm to be used as well.
Oh, yes. Or do you also have to bring in your own grain, some additional grain as well, or are you totally self-sufficient?
No, we're not. Like, we're bringing a protein supplement in the mineral pack for all the cattle, but we're trying to be energy sufficient. That's our goal here in the farm. Is the next couple of years is to at least grow all of our own energy, and then we'll have the proteins shipped in.
How long you been beef and dairy?
We have been dairy now for this summer will be 7 years, and we've had dairy cattle now going on 15 years, I believe.
Okay.
15, 16 years.
Yeah. So what was the push? The 7 years in dairy. What was kind of the original, like, hey, we should be doing this?
I grew up a dairy farmer. I was born into a dairy farming family, so it's just kind of my, that's what I've always known.
It's in your blood.
And it's in the blood for sure. That's what I like. A lot of farming is. It's just in your blood. So dairy thing was always there for me. And when the family farm sold off when I was younger, I worked on several dairy farms kind of through high school, and then got a really good job as a herds manager. And then started working with I married my wife. And just kind of led to, I want to farm for myself. And dairy farming seemed to be something that was kind of out of reach. And then the new entrant program kind of came along, and we jumped on board with that, and here we are.
Nice. Hey, our question of the week this week, Richard, has to do with kind of business decisions and 2020 hindsight being pretty clear. Is there a business decision that you've made on the farm where it's sort of like, what was I thinking? Does one come to mind?
I think for us, a big business decision right now comes down to like harvesting. Like we do a lot, like we rely heavily on custom harvesting, and that's a business decision where I think this year too, we kind of said, should we afford to do a little bit more of our own? Just because, not so much of cost, because of timing. It's worked out for a lot of years where timing has been perfect. The guys came when I wanted to, and then this year, things get delayed for any certain reason, like for the weather, not because someone's doing it on purpose, but just the weather this year. Maybe we should look to do a bit more of our own. That's a business decision we're looking over right now.
Yeah, that's a good one. Hey, Richard, thanks so much for joining us here today in the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
We'll be right back on RealAg Radio right after this.
If you only listen to RealAg Radio, you only get half the picture. For greater insight into the issues that affect farming, tune in to RealAgriculture.com. Crops, livestock, machinery, farm management, and the markets, even food and travel. Real Agriculture Online digs deeper into the topics that affect the way you work and live. So get connected today. Read, watch, and listen to the people who know at RealAgriculture.com.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on SiriusXM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
And we continue the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Up next, we're going to go to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, or around those parts, and we're talking to Tim Oleksyn. Hey, Tim, how are you doing?
You know what? There's not many things I would change in my world, Shaun. Absolutely very little to change here. It's a good place to be.
Better known as Positive Tim. But I like that. What I need, Tim, is a day where I'm just sort of dragging my feet and just like, what am I doing? I just need like a recording of my phone that gives me quotes in the voice of Tim.
I got to tell you, there is. I mean, honestly, I'm so blessed to be able to have a conversation with you because you have so many challenging conversations with so many people, and I'm thinking, man, some people are living in a good place, and yet, they should come here because there is absolutely the world of good that happens around this area all the time. We can go from fishing to green grass to crops that are, are coming along very nicely, and by God, we've been like 4 days frost-free already here.
Yeah,
4
crazy.
days.
Before we get to crop conditions and some of those grass conditions out your window, there is a lot of fishing in your area. What's the best? What's your favorite spot?
My favorite spot is and I'll whisper it, Prince Albert National Park, because we don't want everybody coming. No, honestly, the P8-Waskesiu area, the Prince Albert National Park, it's a national park, but on one end of the park, on Waskesiu Lake is called the Narrows, and it is almost private domain. There's beautiful camping. There's, it's great access. But the walleye and the jacks and the eagles that are there and the wolves that you see on the, along, and the elk that you'll see while you're fishing, and you're not wandering around like, we go to your friend Megan's there once in a while, and there's 1,400 boats per acre, and there you might see 7 or 8 boats on a long weekend, Sean. It is a gorgeous place.
Sounds pretty good to me. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, you bet. And again, you're fishing with bears and eagles and everything, so it's a beautiful place to be.
And the horseflies and mosquitoes.
Oh, you know what? The horseflies. Yeah, I mean, they're as big as sparrow some days.
Yeah,
but,
is that a bird? No, it's a horsefly.
You can drive around them. It's not too bad. It's absolutely not too bad.
They don't obstruct your view.
Throw the anchor, jump over, and deal with the cold water, and just enjoy it. Yeah. Absolutely enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to some farming stuff. How's crop conditions?
You know what? I would say ideal. The grain division here, my brothers would say, man, I wish things were a little further ahead. But they are really good. I mean, we're winding up on the bigger fields, and we were loading the drills there for some lower areas, potholes and stuff like that we couldn't get at earlier. And some of it was, the frost probably hadn't gone out in the low areas too for the water to disappear, and now it has. And we're going through, and like I said to a friend yesterday that was texting me, what's going on? I said, between big equipment and big tires and big toe straps, we've had a really good year. So things are really, coming right along. The faba beans are up, the peas are up. There's wheat up from earlier. Canola, I would take a guess at that, I guess. But everything's coming along really well. So
what's coming along well? Grass conditions in the province of Saskatchewan overall. Think about where we are today versus where we were. Well, the past 5 years, Tim. It's an amazing jump forward, and you know what? Good thing.
Yeah, honestly, it is, and to the point where people are looking at and saying, "Hey, should we add a little fertilizer to that?" I mean, really make things balance and get a response to it, and it's just it opens up so many avenues of hope and people will be, filling the bags of money, Sean, and stuff like that. But it's an amazing start compared to so many other years that have been dismal, absolutely dismal. And you try and be positive on that, and it's tough to do that when the past year has been kicking you down so bad. But it's beautiful grass, and not just in our northern area all the time, but from here to the grasslands to your part of the world, and and such a vast, large area of people that had no hope for so long, and it's like, holy mackerel, this, crack the wine, eh? Let's enjoy this. I mean, you can sit on the fence and watch it instead of adding more fence to expand.
Yeah, I've driven by a number of pastures in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Montana as of late, and the first thing you kind of I'm not a super expert in stock densities, but you're like, whoa, that grass looks pretty good. They can afford some more pears out there, right?
You bet. And and that's a concern, right in there when you talk about the pears and the prices, and I'm talking with the grain division here and say, hey, pears are like $4,500 to $5,200, and it's like, what do we do with these? And yet, as nice as that is, you always worried that the industry will look at more of it as an exit strategy than allowing, young operators and ranchers and rancherettes to enter into the industry, even though it looks promising. But it's that there's that little black cloud. How long is this going to last? And you don't want to be pessimistic, but you sure want operations to be able to bring back the stocks that they had to sell, and their equity aspect in animals, that they can afford to, Shaun. So it is a concern. I mean, it's a double-edged pitchfork, I guess we'll call that one.
So let's say I'm talking to, you're a little over the age of 35, but let's say I'm talking to 35-year-old Tim. What would you be doing right now from a ranch perspective?
Right now, well, of course we'd be putting in more feed, to silage sort of stuff and bounce our herd a little bit, but bring in some more breeding pairs. If we had got rid of some animals, we would be looking for an opportunity to look at somebody that's exiting and add to. No different than what we had a couple of years ago, made sure some of our genetics that we've had for 50 plus years went to some young ranchers to expand their herd. And so we would look at the same thing, and we would be sourcing feed. Not only that, we would be putting up feed extra for the year past this coming winter too. We always wanted to be half a year's ahead of feed. So, just get it done. You absolutely get it done when you can on a year like this.
Yeah. Well, it's. I had somebody say, that's going back a month or so ago, and they said this is a crop farmer, didn't have cattle, but they said, you know what? It's about time It's about time the rancher had their turn.
Yeah, it is. It's, at the same time, we know it's a cycle, and I don't believe all the stories. I mean, the world on prices and stuff like that, we were still able to survive, and the resilience is there. It's more of Mother Nature coming to bat to help with some of those battles that on each operation that on those things too. You learn about profitability on years like that, and you need those training programs too, Shaun, to be successful.
Yeah.
Over a long period of time. It's just not what it is. That hasn't changed over the years at all. It just hasn't.
True enough.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, this week's question. I want you to reflect on business decisions that you've made over your career. Last week I had shared one of mine based on a Wall Street Journal article that was entitled, "What Was I Thinking?" That has to do with, business decision hindsight. Is there a decision that you made in your operation that you kind of think back and say, what was I thinking? What was I doing?
And again, people might not appreciate this, but we bought some breeding stock off of our own from somebody else's operation years ago, and it didn't fit on our whole management strategy that we had planned for over a longer period of time, and it just became a bit of a wreck for us, and it just didn't play into us. So believe in your own strategy, do your own work plan, do your own business plan. And as much as people say, yeah, you can go out here and change it up real quick and make a big change, I think that went through. That one haunted me for a long time.
Yeah. Well put. Hey, Tim, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Really appreciate it, man.
Hey, absolutely. Anytime. We love the conversations that are going from right across the country that you instill, investigate, and entertain us with also, Shaun.
Yeah, someday I got to make it to the ranch. I've still got to do that. I still got to come through.
I'm telling you, I mean, I know you get close and your world's busy, but you know what? When you guys have something coming up one day, and then that friend of yours, Megan, too, and stuff like that, we'll just pick you up at the airport and we'll commandeer you. You can do business from our loft area at the lake now too for a couple of days too.
Well, as long as I can do that work from the fishing boat, we're good.
Well, you can. You absolutely can. I mean, you talk about entertaining.
Yeah, RealAg Radio broadcasting live from the lake. Perfect. Hey, Tim, thanks so much. We got to run. We'll be right back on RealAg Radio right after this.
How's your seed quality? What should you treat with? What about herbicide carryover and environmental concerns? Spring is here, and you've got a lot of things to think about in regards to your pulse crop. The Pulse School on Real Agriculture has information and advice for all these questions and more to help you navigate this season. Brought to you by BASF. Pulse School episodes are available at pulseschool.com, realagriculture.com, or as a podcast on your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com, Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And we're joined right now by one of the agronomists with Pioneer Seeds Canada. He's out of St. Paul, Alberta. It's Doug Moisey. Hey, Doug. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for inviting me back, Shaun. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hey, I heard a rumor that you just finished getting all your plots in. Congratulations. That's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, I got my last plot in. I know there's some reps that still got a few left to go, but everybody's scrambling with the rains delaying us. It's really put everybody behind the 8 ball, so everybody's pushing a lot of hours and trying to get things done. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting next 5 to 6 days.
Rain keeps breaking up some of that progress. We've also had some low temperatures at night that I'm sure has sort of touched some of that emerged canola in not friendly ways.
Yeah, and I had our first call here this morning where a guy noticed that he had some browning on the tips of his canola seedlings. And when we started looking at the records, like we were -3 last Thursday up in our area. So if you look at the timelines, we had some pretty cold temperatures till about Sunday. So my suspicion is it is a little bit of frost. It is in patches. So yeah, these cooler temperatures at night, actually last night was probably our first warm night that we've had all spring. So, it's been pretty stressful on the crop. It's been very slow growing. Some canola that was seeded on May the 11th just popped out here on Monday. So it's been in the ground a long time, and that's telling you the temperatures are there. And if you look at the landscape, the trees aren't even fully leaved yet. So it's telling you we've got some cool weather that's still hanging around and still causing some issues. But the outlook now with the warm weather and the dryness, supposedly with the odd shower, is going to allow us to really get some acres in here in the next little while. So it'll be good.
Yeah, we were talking on Monday's show, and you and I were discussing also during the commercial break that we're really going to see, seeding time and spraying just sort of like they're going to fall on top of each other.
Yes, for sure. And one thing as I recommend is that if the guys haven't bought themselves a set of track shoes, they're going to need some because they're going to basically run from the seed drill to the sprayer. Weeds are out. Interesting enough, we have some people that have told us right flat out is that this spring, although they didn't see much for weeds, they sprayed it and they're glad that they did a pre-seed burn because it's really kept a lot of the weeds at bay. Where we just did our last plot at, what I did this morning here, the guy did not do pre-seed, and he's going to be finishing his field. He's done seeding for 2024, hopefully, but he's going to basically have the sprayer in there in probably 2 to 3 days because it's getting to be pretty weedy and the weeds are going hard. So there's a lot of weeds up, and the reason why I want guys to really jump is that we want that canola coming out in a clean world. It helps with yield. It's not going to slow down nothing. But you got to remember, too, is that every time those weeds are up a couple days ahead of the canola, it's eating up that fertility that you've paid for, and it's tying up stuff. And the reason I look at it is that it's costing you yield if you don't have a clean field while there's during emergence. So we really want to make sure guys get on there.
Clean start. Start.
Yeah, clean start. Really good kind of a play on words.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing some activity with flea beetles, cutworms as well, I've been hearing.
Yeah, a little bit of flea beetle activity. We first complained about having to spray or looking at spraying. Don't know exactly where that all went, but that was the first discussion. And this morning here, I got some pictures of some cutworm damage going on. Surprised that they were saying is that why aren't they above ground? Well, you got to remember the different stages, and then you got to look at also is that there are 5 different species of cutworms that we're dealing with basically in Western Canada to different degrees, and some are feeding below ground, some are feeding above ground, but we haven't heard any above ground feeding, but I'm assuming that we're going to start seeing some things happen in the next couple of days now that the warm weather is happening. So it's a myriad of little minor issues. The rain is a blessing for a lot of areas. We had a lot of guys seeding into dust and worried, and now it's coming up, but now here's with the rain, everything else is going to come on like a game first. So it's going to tighten up the window for taking care of things in a real quick hurry. So guys are going to be exhausted, but the whole idea is that we got to stay on top of it. We've got it going now, so make sure we're staying on top of the insect and the weed game.
Yeah, well, with the moisture we have, if the heat can come here and turn on, we could really blow through that flea beetle period in a very aggressive manner.
Yes. Well, and I agree 100%. Last night at our place here, we were still 24 degrees at 11 o'clock at night. Surprisingly enough, but we had good humidity. That canola plant, even though the sun is basically going down or has gone down, it's still growing. And it's all about heat and temperature. And so we've had some overnight lows here that are going to be in the 14s and 15s. The canola is going to grow all night long, basically, except for a couple hour rest breaks. So we could see some real rapid growth. And that's what I'm saying is that you'll get the rapid growth of canola to blow through the flea beetles, but the weeds that are in your field are going to be doing the same thing. So it's going to be a race. So,
and there's a lot of tasks to work in at this time of the year, especially when we have the season kind of feeling really very, very condensed operationally. Emergence scouting, doing some of those plant stand counts. How did it work out? And it allows you to kind of game plan with more information for the rest of the season.
Oh, I agree. To me, especially after you do first pass, get out and do your plant counts. Look at what your survivability, because the question we get every year is, what seeding rate should I go at? And I know within us, we use a standard 70% survivability, but the guys that seed after the rain, we're probably going to be 80, 90. Now, the reason why I want to know what you need to be at is that what is your survivability? What kind of plant counts? But it helps you to determine what's your potential seeding rate for the next couple of years. Is that, okay, under these conditions, what's my survivability? But it also allows us to get a handle on is that what's our game plan? If we're at 8, 9 plants per square foot, okay, if we continue to be wet, we're probably going to be dealing with sclerotinia. We have to start thinking about what is the 30, 60, 90-day kind of thing that's going to happen. And so for me, that plant stand count tells me what my next 30 days are going to be like. And if I'm on the edge of plant stands, maybe I'm down to 4 or 5, okay, that tells me I just can't say, okay, well, there's a little bit of flea beetle damage. Maybe I've got to be right on there.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, this week I've been asking all the farmers kind of a business question in terms of 2020 hindsight. Hey, I made this decision. What the heck was I thinking in retrospect? Do you have one agronomically that you want to share with us that over your career you can think of?
Oh, my career or just the season?
Well, just this season, maybe. I don't know. Anything that comes. What comes to mind?
Well, hindsight being 2020 is that, and I try to stress this to every one of our customers, is that the decision on seed depth, the decision on seeding rate is a game day decision. It's not black and white. And that's one thing I'd really like to stress to a lot of guys is that you're pulling into the field that day. It's going out, maybe do a couple of moisture probes, see where your moisture is, make that decision, look at the weather. Those are the 3 key things I think in hindsight 2020, if I could get that across to every customer dating back to the number of years I've been in this game, it's just to realize it's a game day decision. Sort of like, when an injured hockey player is getting ready to the ice, it's a game day decision. And so to me, it's that seeding rate is just not, it's 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And then it's adjusting the seeding rate because today's hybrids love that 6 to 8 plants per square foot. When we start getting into 10 and 11, we start creating ourselves some issues just as much as 3 and 4. So it's finding that sweet spot and just figuring out how to do it. So that's sort of my hindsight is that the game day decision thing, if that's the possibility.
Makes a lot of sense. Hey, Doug, thanks a lot for joining us today on RealAg Radio.
Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. Have a good one.
Great stuff. One of the best when it comes to agronomic information. That is Doug Moisey, agronomist with Pioneer Seeds Canada. If you have any feedback on today's show, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can always find Real Agriculture across all the social media platforms or call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. And, of course, thank you to Pioneer Seeds Canada for being the exclusive sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire. Appreciate everybody getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. We'll, of course, chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.